Yes. Okay. I'm already on.
I know that seems like it should be said. Good morning. My name is Stacy Hawk, and I am Vice Chair of the Board. It is 9:45 a.m., January 22nd, 2025, and I would like to call to order the meeting of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. Please be aware this meeting is being broadcast live via the internet, and I would now like to hand the gavel to Ms. Emma Walschlager, Chair of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success.
Good morning. Can I just check that you can hear me? Yes. Okay, great. My name is Emma Walschlager, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. Members, when I call your name, please announce present. Emma Walschlager, myself, present. Fred, yes. Fred via Zoom. I can't see if he's present. Stacy Hawk.
Stepped away.
Okay.
Present.
There he is.
Present.
Are you present?
Here.
Present.
Okay.
Present.
Ashley's present. Luke Schwartz, student representative.
Present.
Great. Please record in the minutes that we have a quorum. Agenda item 2 is consideration and possible action to adopt the minutes for the October 23rd, 2024 committee meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the October 23rd minutes of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success?
So moved.
Okay, so being on Zoom, it's going to be a little hard for me to call out.
All right, yes. So that was Ashley and a second by Stacy.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 3 is public testimony on agenda items related to the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. We do not have anyone registered to testify, so we will go on to the next item. Agenda item 4 is consideration and possible action to adopt the consent calendar. The consent calendar includes non-controversial items that we think can be approved without comment or discussion. This allows us to save time for the other items that need more of our attention. Highlighted items in gray are the consent items on the agenda. We're going to take up the consent calendar in 2 parts: approval of the non-rule consent items and then the rule consent agenda items. Of course, any board member can request that an agenda item be added or removed from the consent calendar. The non-rule agenda items listed on consent for this meeting are 5A, consideration and possible action to adopt the recommendation relating to the July 2024 annual compliance reports for the institutions under a certificate of authorizations, names beginning with P through Z. 5B, consideration and possible action to appoint members to the Advisory Council on Post-Secondary Education for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. 5C, consideration and possible action to appoint replacement member to the Learning Technology Advisory Committee. 5D, consideration and possible action to approve the report supporting unprepared students in Texas, continued progress and recommendations. Members, are there any other agenda items that anyone would like to add to the consent calendar? If not, are there any agenda items that anyone would like to remove from the consent calendar? Do I have a motion for the approval of the non-rule consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Thomas, second by Ms. Hawk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Members, the next items on the consent calendar are the rule items. The rules placed on the consent calendar are those that are either technical, conforming, or implement non-controversial policies around which there is consensus. 5G1, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter F, Sections 1.121 through 1.127, concerning the Advisory Committee on Research Programs. 5G2, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter Q, Sections 1.199 to 1.205, concerning the Community and Technical College Leadership Council. 5G3, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter N, Sections 1.178 to 1.184, concerning the Graduate Education Advisory Committee. 5G4, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter R, Sections 1.206 to 1.212, concerning the Undergraduate Education Advisory Committee. 5G5, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter DD, Sections 1.9531 to 1.9536, concerning Title IX Advisory Committee. 5G6, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 1, Subchapter EE, Sections 1.9541 to 1.9546, concerning the Study and Report on Core Curriculum Advisory Committee. 5G9, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 6, Subchapter C, Section 6.74, concerning Minority Health Research and Education Grant Program. 5G10, consideration and possible action to repeal Board Rules, Chapter 9, Subchapter E, Sections 9.91 to 9.96, concerning Certificate and Associate Degree Programs. 5G11, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 9, Subchapter F, Sections 9.111 to 9.118, concerning Workforce Continuing Education courses. 5G12, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 9, Subchapter I, Sections 9.161 to 9.163, concerning distance education. 5G13, consideration and possible action to adopt proposed new board rules in Chapter 10, Subchapter C, Sections 10.70 to 10.78, concerning the statewide preceptorship grant program. 5G14, consideration and possible action to adopt the proposed repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 14, Subchapters A through F, concerning research funding programs. Are there any rules that anyone would like to remove from the rule consent calendar? If not, do I have a motion to approve the rule consent calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Farias, a second by Ms. Hawk.
Yes.
Okay, great. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda items 5A through 5D were approved on consent. Agenda item 5E is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Tyler to modify the degree program funding model for the Doctor of Pharmacy. Elizabeth Mayer, Assistant Commissioner for Academic and Health Affairs, will present this item and be available to answer any questions. Ms. Mayer.
Good morning. Elizabeth Mayer, Assistant Commissioner for Academic and Health Affairs. Committee members, so the University of Texas at Tyler wants to modify the Doctor of Pharmacy or the PharmD degree program funding model. So this was actually approved by the legislature during the 88th Texas Legislative Regular Session. and passed as House Bill 1794. And so this repealed the Texas Education Code section 76.026C and removed the restriction that prohibited the University of Texas at Tyler's Fish School of Pharmacy, College of Pharmacy, from receiving funding under the formulas established under the Texas Education Code section 61.059 for instruction, operations, and infrastructure. So the University of Texas at Tyler submitted a substantive change, as is required by our rules, to change the degree program funding model from self-supporting to formula funded. So with the updated funding model, the PharmD program will only be formula funded and there will not be any kind of self-supporting track. So this is basically coming to us, but it was approved by the legislature during the last legislative session. And that concludes my remarks on this item.
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Mayer?
Yeah, I just have a question. When that was approved, I know you, Ms. Mayor, may not know this, but was that approved by this board? Do you know the time originally? And also, was there a stipulation on that?
Yes, Dr. Frias, I will go back and double check, but my understanding is when it was originally approved, it was approved as a self-supporting program. And I can go back and look at that date to get you the specifics. But yes, when it was originally approved, it was approved as a self-supporting program.
And is it traditional for them to go to the legislature and not, is it possible to come to the board first, or does it go to the legislature, or is this common?
It can go either way. It can just come to the board. We've had a couple that have either changed tracks, either from self-supporting to formula funded or vice versa, or sometimes they'll add a track. I think there was a nursing program at UT Austin that had it was a self-supporting track, and they added a formula track a few years back.
Yeah, so we've done this, and the legislature's done this before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions for Ms. Mayer? If not, can I have a motion for the approval of the request from the University of Texas at Tyler to modify the degree program funding model for the Doctor of Pharmacy?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Farias. A second? Was that Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5F are the requests for new degree programs. Members, representatives from each institution will be available to answer questions at tomorrow's quarterly board meeting. Removing the requirement for them to attend both committee and board meetings will reduce travel time and cost for the institutions. Agenda item 5F1 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Doctor of Philosophy in Visual Computing and Interactive Media. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Ms. Mayer.
Texas A&M University is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Philosophy or a PhD degree program in Visual Computing and Interactive Media that would begin in the fall of 2025. The proposed program would be offered in person to students in College Station, Bryant, and Fort Worth. The proposed program builds upon the existing bachelor's program and the MFA and MS programs in visualization currently at Texas A&M University. It would be only the 5th program of its kind in the United States and the first in Texas. The doctoral program would leverage new developments in artificial intelligence to explore the interface between visual computing and interactive media. The goal would be to develop innovative digital production methodologies in all forms of image generation with special emphasis on 3D modeling and animation, visual effects, data visualization, extended reality, serious gaming, user interface design, user experience design, immersive experiences, robotics, and fabrication. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, jobs for graphics designers are projected to grow 3%, with approximately 22,800 job openings per year. Jobs for special effects artists and animators are expected to grow faster at 8%, with approximately 9,400 job openings per year. In Texas, the Workforce Commission projects a better increase of 10% for graphic designers positions from 2020 to 2030, with 467 unique job postings in June of 2024. Special effects and animators jobs are expected to grow much faster than the national average at 20%, with 131 job postings in June of 2024. Additional positions would be open for post-secondary teachers. The program would hire two new full-time faculty. An assistant professor would be hired in 2025, and a full professor and program director would be hired in 2026. And that concludes my remarks on this item.
Well, that sounds interesting. Do I have any questions for Ms. Mayer? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Doctor of Philosophy in Visual Computing and Interactive Media?
So moved.
A motion
Ashley
by
Thomas.
and a second by
Second.
Dr. Farias. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5F2 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Doctor of Education in Bilingual English as a Second Language and Dual Language Education. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Ms. Mayer.
Texas A&M University is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Education or an EDD degree program in bilingual English as a second language and dual language education offered 100% online that would begin in the fall of 2025. The proposed EDD would be the second program of its kind in the state. The current program is located at A&M Kingsville, which is 260 miles away from A&M. Graduates of the proposed program are anticipated to be hired by state, federal government, school districts, colleges, and universities to provide improvement to school programs as bilingual ESL dual language education supervisors, coordinators, directors, or specialists, or as professional track faculty members teaching and leading programs in bilingual ESL. According to the latest U.S. Census Bureau American Community Survey data, there are 3.6 million residents ages 5 or older who speak English less than very well in the state, which is 13.7% of the overall population in Texas. Per the Department of Education's Office of English Language Acquisition, in 2022, Texas had the highest percentage increase in K-12 English language learner enrollment in the past 20 years and has surpassed California to become the top state with the highest enrollment of English language learners in the nation. According to the TEA, in 2020 and 2021, there were over 1.1 million emergent bilingual English language learners, representing 20.6% of the over 5.4 million total students in Texas. The Texas Workforce Commission projects 2,734 annual statewide openings for kindergarten through secondary education administrators and 1,128 annual statewide openings for post-secondary education administrators from 2022 to 2032. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, Texas A&M University will hire 2 core faculty in the first 5 years of implementation of the program. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Mayer? If not, can I have a motion to approve the request from Texas A&M University for a Doctor of Education in Bilingual English as a Second Language and Dual Language Education?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Hawk and second by
Second.
Ms. Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5F3 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Austin for a Doctor of Philosophy in Rhetoric and Writing Studies. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Ms. Mayer.
The University of Texas at Austin is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Philosophy, a PhD degree program in Rhetoric and Writing Studies that would begin in the fall of 2025. The proposed program would be offered in person to students in Austin. To students in Austin. UT Austin currently has a track in rhetoric within the existing PhD in English. There is also a track in rhetoric, language, and political communications within the existing PhD in communication studies. The proposed program would replace the existing specialty in English in the English PhD, and it would be different from the rhetoric, language, and political track by focusing on writing as opposed to political campaigning or cognitive linguistics. Instruction in rhetoric and writing studies would be transferred from the English department to the rhetoric and writing department. According to the program proposal, the proposed graduate program's objective is to provide students with specialized knowledge about rhetoric and skills that would allow them to pursue an academic career, conduct field archival and community research, publish scholarly papers, design, develop, teach, and assess rhetoric and writing curriculum, and use rhetoric and writing skills to solve non-academic problems, including through the field investigations, recommendations, and digital artifacts. I did want to note there was an error in the agenda item. We went back and looked. The projected state postgraduate first-year earnings would be $70,000, not what is currently listed on the blue page. So in addition to that, in Texas, the Texas Workforce Commission projects an 8% increase in English language and literature teachers post-secondary jobs for 2022 and 2023. And since this program is already in place and has a concentration within the existing PhD in English, there's no new faculty. And that concludes my remarks on this item.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Mayer? Do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Austin for a Doctor of Philosophy in Rhetoric and Writing Studies?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Farias, and a second by Ms. Hawk. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Agenda item 5F4 is consideration and possible action to approve the request from the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley for a Doctor of Optometry. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer any questions. Ms. Mayer.
The University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Optometry or OD degree program that would begin the fall of 2027. The proposed program would be offered in person to students in the Rio Grande Valley. UTRGV is dedicated to improving access to healthcare in the medically underserved areas of the region and has established a successful medical and health-related programs. The institution plans to seek accreditation from the Accreditation Council on Optometric Education, or ACOE. There is a shortage of optometrists in the Rio Grande Valley, with several border counties having no optometrists at all. These areas are also where systematic and ocular disease are at their highest prevalence, increasing the need for eye care. Optometrists per capita tend to be highest in areas adjacent to optometry programs. Adding an optometry program at UTRGV increases the likelihood of creating future optometrists who choose to stay and provide care in these areas of high need. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UTRGV will hire 3 associate deans and 3 faculty members prior to starting the program in fall of 2027. After program implementation, UTRGV will hire 3 faculty members to start in the fall of 2027, 8 faculty members to start in the fall of 28, and 2 faculty members to start in the fall of 2029. And that concludes my overview of this program.
That's great. Any questions for Ms. Mayer? Do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley for a Doctor of Optometry?
So moved.
Dr. Farias, do I have a second?
Second.
By Ms. Thomas. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5G are the proposed rules. Agenda items 5G1 through 5G6 were approved on consent. Agenda item 5G7 is consideration and possible action to adopt the proposed repeal of Board Rules Chapter 4, Subchapter A, Section 4.5 concerning the Common Calendar. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer any questions.
So we want to propose the repeal of the rules relating to the Common Calendar. It has been determined by the coordinating board we actually do not have statutory authority to require an institution to seek approval by the agency if its academic calendar begins or ends outside of the given date range. We also have not been able to identify any reporting or data that would be impacted by the repeal, since the student census date is set by statute and other reporting deadlines are outlined in alternative requirements. So removing this requirement for institutions will reduce the administrative burden of developing an academic calendar that meets the needs of the institution. So regarding these rules, we did not have any comments regarding the repeal.
Okay, great. Then do I have are there any questions for Ms. Mayer? If not, can I have a motion to approve the repeal of Board Rules, Chapter 4, Subchapter A, Section 4.5 concerning the common calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Thomas. Can I have a second?
Second.
By Dr. Farias. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5G8 is consideration and possible action to adopt the proposed amendments to Board Rules Chapter 4, Subchapter A, Section 4.9, concerning limitations on the number of courses that may be dropped under certain circumstances by undergraduate students. Elizabeth Mayer will present this item and be available to answer questions. Ms. Mayer.
So the coordinating proposes amendments to the rules relating to the limitations on the number of courses that may be dropped under circumstances by undergraduate students. So specifically, the proposed amendments include a reorganization of some subsections for clarity and guidelines for institutions regarding statutory requirements for allowing a student to drop 6 or more courses. So the proposed amendments also include a provision requiring an institution to maintain an appeals process where required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. So these rules were published in the Texas Register. We did receive one comment in support of the amendments and one request for clarification about the institution's ability to set additional policy regarding the 6 drop course limit. But based upon these comments, we did not make any revisions to the rules. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, do I have a motion for the approval to adopt the proposed amendments to Board Rules Chapter 4, Subchapter A, Section 4.9, concerning limitations on the number of courses that may be dropped under certain circumstances by undergraduate students?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Thomas. A second?
Second.
By Dr. Farias. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda items 5G9 through 5G14 were approved on consent. I will now hand the gavel back to Stacy Hawk to close the meeting.
And with that, we are adjourned. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion passes. We are adjourned and we're going to take a brief break before our next meeting.